Alison, and I'm a teen volunteer from the library. First and foremost, I welcome you to another book podcast. Today, I'll be discussing and summarizing the book, I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. This book is focused on Noah and Jude Sweetwine, who happen to be twins. They live in Lost Cove, a little town in California, surrounded by forest and the ocean. Ever since birth, they've been inseparable, always being there for one another. If I were to describe the two, Noah would be the introvert of the pair and Jude the exact opposite. To elaborate on both of their characters, Noah is intelligent and imaginative, but he doesn't consider other people's feelings. In other words, he can be very selfish and can only care about what benefits him. Jude is the golden child and the daredevil of the family, who is also creative, but later in the book, she talks to ghosts and is very superstitious. Over the course of Jandy Nelson's masterpiece of a book, Noah and Jude experience and endure so many life-altering events that change and shape them for the worse or for the better. As you read through their physical and mental journey, you watch as the twins drift away from each other and mend their relationship in a brutal cycle of friendship, revenge, and tragedy throughout the challenges they face. My first impression of the book was the unique and creative writing style used to develop both of their characters. I found the writing style unique because instead of being descriptive to describe the setting, it's used to show the readers Noah and Jude's artistic nature. Not only are the characters creative, the book's style and format is as well. You can tell the book is creative and unique just from looking at the cover, which doesn't have the title or author's name on it, featuring only a quote from the book. The quote is, "We were all heading for each other on a collision course, no matter what. Maybe some people are just meant to be in the same story." This passage highlights the themes of I'll Give You the Sun and that this standalone carries deeper meanings than most contemporary books. Sorry if I just roasted your favorite book genre. But to continue, I'll Give You the Sun is focused more on character development than on the setting. It is told in two different time periods. The first time period is told from Noah's perspective when Jude and him are 13 years old. The second time period is told from Jude's perspective when Noah and her are 16 years old. I like how the author wrote the book like this because it gives the readers an idea of how Noah and Jude have matured and what new events have occurred throughout that time. I love how when you're reading in either Noah or Jude's perspective, you can easily tell them apart. In a lot of books with different perspectives, the characters don't have distinct inner voices that you can tell apart, which can be annoying. Early in their book, their grandmother passed away when they were in 7th grade and their mother died when they were in 8th grade. These deaths have tragically affected both of their lives. Both of them feel as though they have contributed to the death of their mother, which makes it impossible for them to forgive themselves and come to terms with her death. As a result of Jude's imagination being so strong, she can see and talk to her grandmother and mother's ghosts. I don't know if she's actually seeing her grandmother or mother's ghost, or if it's just a figment of her imagination, but to be honest, I like how the book has an unrealistic aspect to it. An essential relationship that is shown in I'll Give You the Sun is obviously between Noah and Jude. Their relationship is a key aspect of the book because of how they treat each other. The way they treat each other is largely influenced by their strong personalities. When they were younger, they had a close relationship, but as they grew older, a war between the two sparks, caused by the jealousy of who their parents' favorite is. This war causes an enormous rift between the siblings, resulting in a deep-rooted hatred and acts of revenge towards each other. But even though they have their fill of arguments, they will always be there for and love the other no matter how much jealousy they have towards one another. Throughout I'll Give You the Sun, it is shown how important Noah and Jude's relationship is, but without the relationship between them and their parents, the twins' attitude towards each other wouldn't be as it is written in the book. The way Noah and Jude's parents treat each of them makes it seem as though they have a favorite. This causes immense jealousy between Noah and Jude, leading them to taking revenge against the other. These acts of revenge are life-changing events. Without the war of who is the favorite of each parent, these acts against each other wouldn't have occurred. Now that brings me to if I liked the book. And I do. I loved how engaging and captivating the characters and the relationships were. Reading I'll Give You the Sun was such a breath of fresh air. Lately, I haven't had the motivation or interest in reading my go-to genre, which is fantasy. So reading I'll Give You the Sun was a much-needed break. The book also has a lot of deep messages in different structures, which is great when doing a reading assignment in grade 10 English class. If you didn't guess, I'm using I'll Give You the Sun for my English book unit. From reading this book, I believe the age range would be for anyone who is a late 13-year-old or older, because the book does include difficult topics and romantic scenes in it. To conclude, I thoroughly suggest reading this book. You will not be disappointed. Thank you for listening to my review of I'll Give You the Sun. Additionally, I hope you enjoyed all my comments and thoughts on the book. As it happens, this is not the last of the book podcast, so if you like this one, remember to stay tuned for more from Teen Talk.
Hello guys, this is Kian from the Teen Podcast. I hope you're doing great and having a fantastic day while listening to me. In today's podcast, I'll be talking about my favorite filmmakers who always inspire me, get me interested in their unique and marvelous style. Additionally, they always remind me of how tremendous the cinema is, and its impact on people like me will never be demolished. Alright, so now I'm gonna cover my top and favorite filmmakers who I could talk about them for hours and hours, but today I'm going to talk about their key films which will not be repeated in the history of cinema forever. For sure. And maybe you watch them to, get to know these guys' masterpieces, Alright, enough talking. Let's begin with number 1 in my top filmmakers list. Part 1. Maybe I can do another time, So number 1 on my list is definitely Stanley Kubrick, whom I could consider as the greatest filmmaker of all time. However, I'm sure that not everyone knows him, which is a shame in his films, but for the start, I suggest you watch these films from him to know how genius this guy is and why do I choose him as the best. For example, The Clockwork Orange, Full Metal Jacket, and Eyes Wide Shut are his strongest film in my view, which could open your eyes to the depths of details, storytelling, and his magical style. All the films that I mentioned have their own specific story. For instance, The Full Metal Jacket is about the Vietnam War and its mental effects on soldiers. Eyes Wide Shut is a philosophical film about love and marriage, which is quite outstanding. Clockwork Orange is very great too, but you know what I mean. So are Kubrick's film worth watching? Yes, absolutely yes. They all have their own unique genre, and as a film lover, there is absolutely no waste of time to watch any of his masterpieces. You can watch even his early films, and he's just great, I just love him. Number 2 on my list is Alfred Hitchcock, an old British filmmaker that I dare say is one of the best filmmakers of all time either. And you may say to yourself that I'm choosing him based on his fame, but the reality is I choose him for his amazing, mysterious, suspenseful style. Yeah, amazing, mysterious, suspenseful style. Yeah, man. He is well known as a master of suspense in cinema. That was a good sentence, by the way. Amazing, mysterious, suspenseful style. He is well known as a master of suspense, as I told you, in cinema. And most of his famous films, like The Birds, Vertigo, Rear Window, they all represent different storytelling, like set designing, colors, and many other details and techniques. I actually can call him the best technical guy in the history of cinema. I recommend you to watch at least 3 or 5 of his films to know why I choose him. You can watch Psycho, Drawing Man, and what else? Rear Window. I mean, like, you just watch all of his films, okay? He's just great. And I may have watched some of these guys, some of his films, like, many times, like Stanley or Alfred, and don't have a regret from that. And I always learn something new from their films, which is good, you know. So these guys are my top filmmakers that I truly admire, and can't say how much these guys mean to me, specifically their films. I hope you watch at least one of these guys' films. Just please. Kubrick, Hitchcock, I mean, it doesn't matter. They're both great. And, you know, I just love them. And that's pretty much it. I hope you go to your laptop or your phone, whatever, and watch one of the films that I named and say, now I get why did he say this dude is awesome. This film's like actually great. You know, Kian was like, he's great, man. He's like the best man in the world. Okay, alright guys. Till the next time, have a good day, afternoon, or night. Bye guys.
It's Alisha here from Teen Talk, and today I wanted to discuss dark academia. So those who aren't familiar with this term, I'll just explain. It's a type of aesthetic and a subculture of popular culture that revolves around higher education and appreciation for the classics, arts and poetry, Greek and Gothic architecture and mythology. And it often focuses on clothing styles and the music one listens to and the general habits that they take on. And you would find it on social media sites such as Tumblr, Pinterest, TikTok. I'm sure it's on others as well. And it's a pretty little image. These wall-to-wall bookshelves bursting with knowledge and quills, hands aching from the cramped writing, and the secret Harry Potter nerd we all harbor inside of us to study in the library or have lunch at the magnificent Great Hall. It's castles and swirling stairs and tweed jackets, coffee and more coffee and startlingly neutral tones with the very occasional white. And Shakespeare and Claire de Lune, and you can't forget Hosier. It's really easy to understand the appeal and why the internet is in love with it. And I would love to embody this, experience this. But, you know, that's not necessarily possible. And so people love to experience it in the next way through media. So I sat down to write a little podcast about one of the books that is often coined as the propeller of this aesthetic, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. And people say that this book is really what brought everything else together in the early 2010s. That's not that these things didn't exist before. Obviously, Greek mythology and appreciation for these arts existed, but this specific novel and this clothing style was encompassed by this novel. And before I even started to type anything, I started thinking about the characters and the story and the writing and about the aesthetic, dark academia. It's a beautiful book, starring a group of classic students with murder, of course. And I think everyone should read it. It's really good. And I'm not telling people to not read this book or not to enjoy this aesthetic, because that would definitely make me a hypocrite. But this is more just a commentary that I had on the trend itself. So what I was starting to realize as I thought about the book and the aesthetic is that the media that embodies this as well, it's really white, to put it like simply. Aside from The Secret History, there's other dark academia books that there are, and there's If We Were Villains, which is one of my all-time favorite books, The Ninth House, The Picture of the Dorian Gray, even movies such as Dead Poets Society and Kill Your Darlings. And if you're familiar with any of these stories, a lot of these are one of my top favorites. I love all these pieces of work, but there is a concerning amount of Eurocentrism that's really prominent in all of the work, and not all of it, but a lot of the work that is prominent in dark academia circles. And if you search up the aesthetic on Pinterest, it's practically impossible to find something that diverts from white. All the pictures of the people do seem to focus on that specific race, and the characters in these books are all of that race, and they all display anecdotes and drama from a white perspective, and that isn't new. Of course, this has been going on forever. But I began to wonder why in conversations of the preservation of history and the arts, there's just almost like natural exclusion of people of color. And it makes me wonder about this specific aesthetic. And I'm absolutely sure it's not on purpose, but what makes it leave out, the rest of the world? And I guess I was like, okay, well, maybe is it because history and art and culture have been consistently told from European standards? Or the inherent classism present and how that relates with race? I mean, I don't know the answer, and I don't think that it's a purposeful, resentful way to exclude diversity, but it is. The aesthetic itself, it's a very nostalgic one for European history, and that, of course, is very targeted towards a specific race, obviously. And the architecture and the literature that embodies this aesthetic, it propels a very single-sided view of history. And if we look back at the idea of academia that even comes from centuries old tradition of Homer and art and Machiavelli, and to include diversity in dark academia, there's almost like a discussion of perhaps even rewriting the definition of academia that's been rooted into our culture. And even mine, when I just started thinking about this, I was like, this is a really weird thing that your personal definition of academia tends to be Eurocentric, even if you yourself are not European or of European descent. And online, I was looking at the discourse of this, because obviously, and I found the discourse. I didn't look everywhere. I didn't look for very long either, but I found two different perspectives that the aesthetic is just simply not that deep, it's not that serious, or that it needs to be abolished. And those are the two extremes. I'm sure there were many people in the middle. But to the former, I want to briefly say, yes, it does revolve around Eurocentrism, and that's true, but I don't know why it can't evolve, because if we look at the aesthetic of dark academia itself, it's said to be about reading and classics, right? It's said to be about humanity, so I don't know why other cultures can't exist within that. And conversely, I don't think we can get rid of it, because if we began to get rid of every single thing that was racist, there's nothing that would really exist, which some might think it's a dramatization, but which it is slightly, but a lot of structures that are built into society, such as academia, has those remnants that we're still trying to unlearn, and it's a natural progression. And I think instead of outright banishing it, we should instead just allow more discussions of various cultures in this aesthetic, allow for a more diverse thing to kind of also be included. Like Chinese architecture or ancient Egyptian mythology, these are all really interesting things that you can include, If the core of dark academia is simply the passion of learning and the enjoyment of this, I really do hope we can move toward to diversifying this aesthetic. And I think it is being diversified. This is not a new take. People have been saying this for a while now, and I think it is working towards it. And I've read things that are dark academia and do include diversity, and that's really cool. And I'm not saying that this aesthetic is bad or there's something wrong with the original things that it's admiring, but it feels like a little exclusionary for everyone else. And I know it doesn't mean to, and I know it's not excluded, but I think to find a place inside, to feel like belonging, there could be more diversity, that's like a step we can take. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Alisha on Teen Talk.
Hello, guys, this is Kian from Team Podcast, and I hope you all have a great day. In today's podcast, I'll be talking about my favorite films. Let's say the Kian's Top 3, Part 1, of course. And these films could be scary, mystery, drama, comedy, etc. Generally, all of them are worth watching and spending your time on, and I assure you that there's no way that you're gonna say, I wish I hadn't watched that and instead I watched the romance or comedy film at least. No, okay? Alright, enough talking. Number one on my top 3 list is Taxi Driver, directed by Martin Scorsese. He's actually one of my favorite film directors too. A phenomenal film with drama and crime genre that will blow your mind. A fascinating story of a lonely taxi driver played by the great Robert De Niro. Frankly, I sometimes imagine him playing in my future film, which I'm sure this is not gonna happen. But even thinking about it makes you feel good, you know? By the way, this film has won many awards and has a great place in view of big movie reviewers like me. Okay, it has the greatest dialogue, in my opinion, in the history of cinema. Like, literally, the greatest line that you could hear is from this film. When De Niro says, "Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? Because I'm the only one here." That was awful, but you gotta watch the film to see how fabulous he say this line in this film. It's fantastic. Great actors, cinematography are just a small part of this film's primacy. It's just great. Okay, number 2 on my list is Do Not Look Up by Adam Mckay. A very interesting dark comedy film starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence. Okay, not Don. Ariana Grande. Yeah, she's actually a singer, but my most favorite actress, Meryl Streep. She's a legend. She truly is. And many other famous celebrities. Besides the fact that this film has many famous actors and actresses in it, which most likely is a reason for its success, and it also has a unique and different storytelling method, which is the strongest point of this film in my opinion. For your better understanding, this story is about two scientists who finds out a meteor like size of a city is about to hit Earth, okay, in less than 6 months, and all of and these scientists, DiCaprio and Lawrence, are trying to let all the world know that what's gonna happen, but no one actually believed them, and the media and everyone are ignoring this tragic truth. As I said, it's a very different story and also has an outstanding message in it. Definitely worth watching. Alright, last but not least, the third film, okay? The third film is Parasite. This one is my favorite one. A South Korean dark comedy and drama film which won many awards, like the best film of the year in the Oscar 3 years ago, I suppose. This film is sort of like Don't Look Up. However, Don't Look Up is mostly political, but this one was even better. A combination of political and social issues same time, which the award-winning filmmaker Mr. Joon-ho has dramatically shown in his film. A film about a poor family who are trying to have a better life and do anything to get money, But this story begins when the boy in the family teaches English to one of the family members in the rich family. Okay, that's kind of nice. And all of the members of the poor family are now trying to have a place in the rich family. Yeah, you gotta watch this film on the weekend. It's an absolutely entertaining and amazing film to watch. Okay, that's it. Well, I hope you, the dear listener, watch one of these films and Certainly, you're gonna like all of them. Till the next time with another podcast with me. Have a good day, afternoon, or night. Bye bye.
Do you want to start with the introduction? Because I am new here and I don't really know.
Okay. All right. Let's do this thing.
All right.
It's Branwyn and Catherine, the Branwyn and Catherine Show. Hi there. I'm Branwyn.
And I'm Catherine.
And today, our topics will be comfort things and why they are comfortable. There we go. Yeah. Woohoo! First one back. Anyways, yeah. Catherine, you can start.
So I have quite a few comfort shows, and movies, but the two I will be discussing are Star Wars and the Lord of the Rings / The Hobbit series and saga. What are your comfort shows or movies?
My comfort movies that I will be talking about is the Ghostbusters trilogy. I'm excluding the 2016 version because that's not very good. Or my comfort TV show is Bar Rescue.
So what makes Ghostbusters your comfort movie?
Well, I'd say that mostly it's the characters, and it's one of the one movies that is sure to make me laugh. So if I'm having a really rough day, I can turn it on and then have a great laugh to it. And also the just the atmosphere of the four friends all working together to take over the ghosts in Manhattan or Brooklyn or New York in general. And it's just a fun movie, fun times. And I think that Ivan Reitman directed it in such a way that it's sure to get people to laugh. Which the writing also does, because it's been written by two comedians who play Egon and Ray in the movie. It's written by the actors. So yeah. What makes Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit your comfort movies?
Well, I have memories attached to them. Star Wars was the first real movie that I watched with my family, and Lord of the Rings followed soon after. And they both have really, really good soundtracks that I will listen to in my spare time sometimes. So that's two of the reasons why.
Rad. Oh, fun trivia fact about my comfort movie. There was supposed to be a third one, but the third one turned out to be just a video game that I hear was not too great. Shabby is the other word.
Ghostbusters has many different versions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So which one would you say is your favorite?
My favorite two is the second one and then the most recent one, which I won't go into spoilers, but has a lot of ties to the first one and there's little Easter eggs within those, something that happens in the first one with Egon and his pair of glasses, and I think just seeing that Egon is my top comfort character, seeing those little aspects of the film, or those little aspects of his character still being there, is what also gives me a lot of comfort, because wasn't too sure about the whole film, but it turned out to be one of my favorite movies and comfort films. So I think just the aspect of having characters, not so much that you can relate to, but characters that give me comfort. That's why I like those two, because Egon gets a lot more like personality in the second one, while as in the first one he was very like, there were like quick wits of like his humor and stuff in there, but not like his full personality was out. So yeah.
So they provide more depth to the characters and gets you to see them in a different light, almost.
Yeah. Same question asked to you. I don't know if I asked it already, but
my favorite, like
what like part of like, since it's more memory based, like of the films, like what's like the more comforting part of those films aside from memories? Like
definitely the atmosphere that the movies create. So Star Wars is an interesting thing because while it's very sci-fi and alien and space orientated, it was made in 1977, the first one. So while it is an old movie, it's placed in the future in the way that modern futuristic fiction would be. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
And for Lord of the Rings, it's kind of medieval and fantasy, which is like one of my favorite genres. So they're like elves and dwarves and dragons and stuff. And it just really sucks you in a way.
That's right.
What is your comfort show as of right now?
As of right now, it's Bar Rescue, where this guy named John Taffer, who doesn't seem like he has, like, I looked his Wikipedia, he barely has any credentials to do what he does. But I find it interesting because he's fixed so many, and only like a couple have failed on him. So he's like gained more and more things, and I like how angry he is. I think anger is like one of those emotions that depends on the person, but sometimes for me, like if it's like a friend or like parent, like somebody close, it's like scary and upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's somebody that I don't know personally, it's just so funny. And so like,
it also depends on what the person is angry about, right?
Yeah, so most of his anger is how horrible the people are as workers to these bars, like stealing money and stuff and like wasting like resources and stuff. So his anger is like valid, and it's like I would have done the same thing had I been in his shoes. So yeah. What's your comfort show?
So one of my comfort shows is the Great Canadian Baking Show, because it was one of the first shows I started watching with my family over quarantine, and we managed to binge like most of the seasons in a very quick time. So yeah, now that I notice it, a lot of my comfort stuff is actually memory based and family based. But yeah. And
I agree with you on that, actually. Ghostbusters is also very memory based. Like I've watched like those with like my parents all the time. And like especially with the new one, we've watched it a few times together. So that's memory based. And then Bar Rescue, I spend a lot of time at my grandfather's, and me and my cousins will watch that, like who are significantly older, and it sort of ties us together because we're like, look at these dummies. So yeah.
So if comfort shows and comfort movies are both very memory based, then things like vacation places would also be memory based. So what would you say is a comfort vacation spot for you?
It's my grandfather. Okay, so technically it's my aunt's house. My grandfather lives there, so I call it my grandfather's house, even though he doesn't pay rent, or well, he doesn't pay the mortgage. So it's his like when I think of that house, it's his. But legally it's not. I just find it comfort like a comfort vacation spot because like yeah, it can get hectic at times, but like many of my memories have been made there. Like something scary happened to my grandfather 2 years ago, three years ago, and that, like, although it was a bad memory, I have, like, happy thoughts about that because, like, I got to experience a lot more things because of that, and I got to be closer with him. So every chance that I get, I try and go down there. Usually it's March break, and then usually, like, any prolonged period of time, like winter break, summer, and yeah. What's your comfort vacation spot?
So for me, I'm going to have to say PEI because I've been going there with my family every year since 2017, I think. And it's kind of, I've also read Anne of Green Gables, which is set in PEI when I was younger. So it's like, I don't know, there's a kind of vibe about the place that really resonates with me. And like the beaches are very nice and warm. The water's always warm. And yeah, it's a family tradition to go there. It's a really nice place.
That's awesome. Thank you for watching today's episode of the segment of the Branwen and Catherine show, or the Catherine and Branwen show. Either way, it still works. I'm Branwen.
And I'm Catherine.
Woohoo! Yeah.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Bye.